Good morning, good people, brothers, sisters, and beautifully defiant siblings in the movement. Welcome to the unapologetic voice of labor, equity, and action. This is the CWA Hour Power Radio Show, where we amplify the organizers, uplift the everyday workers, and honor the giants whose shoulders we stand on right here on KYOK 1140 AM and 106.5 FM in the heart of Houston, Texas. If you're rolling through H-Town or just fired up anywhere in the world, stream us live on kyokradio.org, the CWA Strong app, or catch the replay anytime by searching CWA Hour of Power on your favorite podcast platform, because this space, this time, it's about us. That's right. It's about us. We're talking union contracts, organizing victories, labor rights, human dignity, fair pay, and bold everyday resistance to injustice in all its forms. So whether you are on the job, in your car, at your kitchen table, or deep in the fight, lean in. Honk your horns if you stand with workers. Throw a fist up if you know your worth. Joining me today are the fire starters and truth tellers. Mikeya Jones, Sir Reginald Small, Timmia Wiley, David Marshall, and Tay Akins is out of the office today, and we know we're going to miss her. So buckle up, beloveds, because the power we build together, that power is ours. Let's get into it. Our union voices are ringing in every district, from Alaska to Maine, Texas to Minnesota, Canada to Puerto Rico, because we don't play at CWA. The Communication Workers of America invites you to the 2026 National Human Rights Conference, happening August 16th through 19th in Atlanta. Join union leaders and activists from across the country as we come together to build power, advance justice, and fight for workers' rights. This year's conference will be held at the beautiful Westin Peachtree Plaza in the heart of downtown Atlanta. To register, visit cwahumanrights.com. Again, to register, visit cwahumanrights.com. Don't miss this opportunity to connect, learn, and organize for a stronger, more just future. So we'll see you in Atlanta. And before we move forward, I want to bring the conversation closer to the work happening right now with our host, our internal coordination, member priorities, and some ongoing concerns that continue to require our attention. And so, first of all, we're going to kick off while we just got back from Atlanta, talking about and putting things together for the national conference, which will be happening in 2026. We just had our face-to-face meeting in Atlanta. So everybody, let's pull on up and let's start talking about this face-to-face. And for those of us who attended, and David, we're not really calling you out because you're not a part of the face-to-face, but I know you have some questions of what went on at the face-to-face. And so I just want to ask this question right here. What were some of the most important takeaways from the face-to-face meeting? All right, all y'all don't talk at once. Come on off mute.
I would say one of the most important takeaways was honestly, it was the unity of the group coming together under one topic, well, several topics, and getting stuff done. I think that was
Mhm.
beautiful because you had people from across the country, from different sectors within the union and different districts within the union. So we covered the whole 50 states, and being able to come together under one banner and think as one.
And Reginald. Okay. And how did the in-person discussion shape or refine our direction toward moving forward?
Well, actually, Errol, I do have something. I can answer that question and then ramble on to something else, as a matter of fact. But our face-to-face meeting creates such an energy, and it brings together all of these like-minded people, activists from all over the United States, representing every single district. And it just brings up, once a year, it brings this certain energy that sets us in motion for the planning and the creativity and the activism throughout the year. And it did that
Mhm.
this time. I mean, there's only so much energy that can be obtain from a Zoom call. I still believe that getting together, I believe that getting together and putting that energy in, and that energy is called collective power, is what that energy is actually called. And it
Yes.
truly sets the tone for our path going forward for the remainder of the year. And this year, in particularly, Errol, with so much going on. I mean, we have been um, our heads have been spinning on so much going on in the human rights, civil rights world. There's so much to talk about and so much action to take. And it helps us to channel that energy to stay focused on one accord.
Hmm. Now, David, I know that you weren't in the planning in the face to face, but you have attended some of the past human rights conferences. So, my question to you today is, what are you expecting from this 2026 Human Rights Conference in Atlanta?
You know, every time that I've been to the Human Rights Conference, they've stepped it up a notch every single time. Like every time you think you've seen it all, they just take it to another level. So, I expect it to be a great conference. The activist mall was next level. I'm hoping to participate in that with some of the veterans groups. But I'm just looking forward to, what are we going to do next, and
Hmm.
keeping that fresh, energy, because it's not ever something that's stale. It's something that is happening now, and so you always rise to the occasion, and I'm looking forward to this occasion.
Good, good. And that brings me to something. Now that the conference has been announced, what should the members begin preparing for? Or the general public, not just members, because this is open to everyone. I want to make that clear. This CWA Human Rights Conference is open to everyone. So what should we begin preparing for?
Well, I guess I'll take this one. So we're going to have at least 8 dynamic workshops covering a multitude of human rights causes like immigration, equity, LGBTQIA plus rights, worker wellness, how to basically prepare and be, a part of the movement. And also we're going to deal with oligarchy and just what we're dealing with as a country right now. We're going to have some amazing speakers, and we always like to incorporate like an art aspect because we do believe that there's more than one way to reach people. And so we like to be really creative with, art and how we can get our human rights agenda across through art. And I'm just really excited. And I don't know if this question was asked or if we covered this when even discussing our face-to-face meeting, because my favorite part was the fact that we were able to be active and actually do some work on the ground in the community with our nourishment of the unhoused community effort, as well as our action at Wells Fargo, combating the fact that they're still racially discriminating against people when it comes to loans and things like that at that bank, even after several lawsuits and demonstrations. And so I think that because we were there for such a short time, and we did set our human rights agenda for the year and discuss our plan as a committee, I thought it was really good for all of us to come together and be able to support and uplift the local community in Atlanta. And I'll stop because I can talk I can talk all day about it, but that was my favorite part. I love when we're able to put action behind our words and actually do something.
Right. Reginald, do you have anything else you want to add to this? Or, because I know this is a time that is exciting. We're going to go to each one of you all. I know this is an exciting time. When we start working on this conference, I mean, and I can truly say it can also be a devastating time because in 2024 I was devastated that I had to leave because we went on strike against my former employer.
It is an exciting time, Errol, and it always is. in all of my conference going, and I have been attending conferences of various subjects for a very long time, I find that the Human Rights Conference brings something a little bit different to the table. There is something at the Human Rights Conference for every single person, and it actually hits and impacts the rank and file of which is the backbone of our union. So it just, I don't know, all those topics that Mikeya just mentioned. We have all of those there. You get to actually meet up with other activists that are trying to do the same work in different jurisdictions or different districts. It's just a powerful experience from day one all the way to the end of it. So you get all of this education, you hear from all of this fabulous speakers speaking on the most current topics. And by the end of the conference, you're wondering, okay, I'm just all fired up. What do I do with it? We've even fixed that part of it. We actually have an activist mall that on the last day of the conference, you can actually hands-on take part in something, whether it's letter writing, whether it is actually taking part in some type of activity that's local to the area. You get to actually take part in something, which means that you're taking part in the movement.
Wonderful. Tim, you have anything that you want to add?
I think Reginald said it all. The act, because I was gonna just give a brief overview of the activist mall, and to me, the activist mall is very powerful because not only do you have people coming, they're not just coming to listen; they're coming to learn and participate and complete an action that goes a lot further than it carries on the
Just the
legacy of
conference.
of the conference because you can be signing a petition or calling their congressman behind whatever cause they have learned about.
David, you have anything you want to add?
Sure. Like I said, my favorite part of what we always do, it's always a theme, and it seems like everybody has gets their opportunity to be represented. So I don't think they miss
Yes.
anything as far as representation because everybody feels included.
Wonderful, wonderful. Mikeya, you have anything else you want to add before we move on?
Yes, it's going to be August 16th through 19th in Atlanta, Georgia. So be there. Like Errol mentioned, it is open to the general public. So it's not like you have to be a union member to be there. It's not like you have to be part of a particular organization. If you are sick and tired of being sick and tired of what's going on and you want to get in on this human rights agenda, you want to find out what, the progressive movement is doing, you want to just something, come to our human rights conference. And you can go to our website. Timmia, what's the website again that they can go on to visit to register and to
It's
get a hotel room?
It's CWA Human Rights. Again, that's CWA humanrights.com.
Or you can
Oh,
get information about it on any of our social media platforms on Facebook or Instagram.
all right.
And
As we continue this,
I just recommend that you're there. I can't imagine any other place that you would want to be other than in Atlanta on August the 16th.
right, right. And as we continue this conversation, it's clear that the work we're doing isn't isolated events. It's interconnected from internal strategy sessions to public accountability efforts, and each piece plays a role in strengthening our movement and ensuring that workers' voices are heard, protected, and acted upon. Thank you so much, guys, for that. We're going to move on right now. Movement is power. I want to spotlight a young man that I met just on yesterday, and he was awesome. And then around this early this morning, my mind was going. I couldn't go back to sleep. So I got up and I started checking him out to see exactly what he's been doing. And he is an Alabama State Representative, Jeremy Gray. And so I noticed that he's a leader changing the narrative around wellness, education, and access for our youth. And that just falls in line with what we kind of touched on just a few moments ago. Now, this story is powerful because it's not just about what he introduced, but what he had to remove first. For decades, yoga was actually banned in the public schools in Alabama. Let that sink in just for a little while. Back in 2021, Representative Jeremy Gray led the charge to overturn that outdated policy, successfully removing the ban on yoga in Alabama public schools. That wasn't just symbolic, it was transformational. Because what he understood is this: our children are dealing with stress, they're dealing with trauma, anxiety, and pressure at levels we didn't see growing up. And sometimes the solution isn't more discipline, it's more tools. Tools like breathing, tools like mindfulness, tools like movement. And that's where yoga comes in. But he didn't stop at legislation. Representative Gray took it a step further and reached directly into the lives of young people through literacy and empowerment. He authored the children's book, Yoga and Me, a book designed to introduce kids to yoga, mindfulness, and self-awareness in a way that feels relatable and accessible. This is about meeting children where they are. It's about saying you don't have to wait until adulthood to learn how to manage your emotions. You can start right now. And at CWA Our Power, we talk a lot about working families and stress on the job, about mental health. And guess what? Those same pressures trickle down into our homes, into our children. So when we see legislation like this, when we see leaders like Jeremy Gray pushing wellness into schools, we have to recognize that this is labor adjacent work. This is community work. This is human rights work, because healthy children become healthy adults, and healthy adults become strong workplace and strong unions. Think about this. What would it look like if every child had access to tools that help them pause instead of react? What would it look like if emotional regulation was taught just as much as math and reading? That's the vision behind this work. So today we uplift Representative Jeremy Gray, not just for changing a law, but for changing lives. Removing a decades-old restriction, to introducing mindfulness in schools, to writing a book that speaks directly to our youth. That is what leadership looks like when it's rooted in care. So stay with us right here on CWA Our Power, where we continue to highlight the people and policies shaping our communities, because power isn't just about something we fight for, it's something we build. You're listening to KYOK 1140 AM, the all-new 106.5 FM. If you're on the go, you can take us with you by visiting kyokradio.org and pressing the Listen Live option. Tune in live every Thursday, 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific on kyokradio.org, the CWA Strong app, or your preferred podcast player. Search for CWA Hour of Power on your favorite podcast player. Like and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at CWA National Human Rights to stay connected. Share your thoughts and join the conversation. Up next, and I know you guys have been missing, this is the Union Buster of the Week. We've skipped it for a few shows, because we have really been in and going deep in some of the conversations that we've had. So we're going to welcome back the Union Buster of the Week with Timmia Wiley. Good morning, Timmia.
Good morning, Errol. Thank you for having this segment back. It's been a while, but we're going to get into it. All right, family, I need you to turn your radios up and gather around. It's time once again for our favorite corporate fitness test, and that's this week's winners. And this week's winner didn't even break a sweat. Nike. Yes, that Nike, the one that we like to wear. The company that tells workers to just do it has decided that 775 workers should just be gone. And before anyone rushes in to defend them with the usual corporate talking points, marketing pressures, restructuring, strategic realignment, let me translate that into plain language. Profits are fine, the executives are fine, the shareholders are fine, but the workers, disposable. But hey, at least they're consistent, because if there's one thing Nike has mastered over the years, it's laying people off while telling the public they're innovating. Let's do a quick jog down memory lane. In 2009, Nike laid off hundreds during the recession. In 2017, more cuts came along. In 2020, we had the pandemic layoffs, and in 2023, we had restructuring layoffs. And just a few months ago, in December of 2025, 775 more workers were shown the way to get out the door. Same playbook, different press release. The funny thing is, every time workers get cut, Nike somehow still finds the money for stock buybacks, executive bonuses, glossy ad campaigns telling us how much they care. Apparently, care has a very narrow definition. And notice something else. Nike stays aggressively union free in the United States. That's not by accident. That's strategy. Because corporations like Nike don't fear bad press. They don't care about hashtags. They don't even care about boycotts for very long. What they do fear, though, what they are afraid of is organized workers with legal power. Because if those 775 workers had a union, this wouldn't be a one-sided announcement. There would have been negotiations. There would have been severance pay protections. There would be job retaining guarantees. There would be WARN Act enforcement with teeth. Instead, workers get an email and executives get applause from Wall Street. You see, layoffs are easier when nobody at the table speaks for labor. That's why companies spend millions on union avoidance consultants. That's why they run captive audience meetings. That's why they whisper fear into the workplace. Because a union turns just do it into you can't do this without us. And that's what terrifies them.
And let me say something here, Timmia. I don't know, because what you're saying is laying out. What you're laying out isn't just about Nike. It's actually about power, and in my opinion, abuse of power. Corporations like Nike don't wake up trying to be villains, or I hope they don't. They wake up trying to control the narrative. Layoffs are framed as necessary, unions are labeled as disruptive, and workers are told just to be grateful the company's good to you. But ask yourself this: if unions were really bad for workers, why do corporations work so hard to stop them? Why do they spend millions of dollars fighting organizing drives instead of millions protecting jobs? And why is worker democracy treated like a threat? It's because unions actually expose the truth that the people creating the value deserve is saying how that value is distributed. And once workers realize that together, corporate power starts slipping away. That's why Nike and companies just like them, because we're talking about one company today, but you could substitute a lot of companies' names in that place. That is why keeping workers divided, temporary, and afraid. Fear is cheaper than fairness. Always.
Exactly, Reginald. Let's talk directly to the workers listening right now. If you're sitting at home thinking, this doesn't affect me, I don't work for Nike, you, my dear, are missing the point. Because what happens at Nike today happens at your workplace tomorrow. When corporations learn they can lay off hundreds with no pushback, they do it again and again and again. But when workers organize, when workers educate themselves, when workers stand together, suddenly layoffs get harder. Suddenly, corporations have to negotiate instead of dictating. Suddenly, workers stop being line items and start being stakeholders. That's why Nike is our union buster of the week. Not because they're unique, but because they're the perfect example. So here's the call to action. If you are a worker, learn your rights. If you're in a workplace, talk to your coworkers. If you're already in a union, get involved and stay involved. If you're a corporation listening, just know this. You can cut jobs, you can spin headlines, you can silence your workers for a while, but you can't outrun solidarity because workers don't need slogans. They need power, they need paychecks, and power is organized. Back to you, Errol.
Thank you so much, Timmia, for that Union Buster of the Week. You're listening to KYOK 1140 AM and the all-new 106.5 FM. If you're on the go, you can take us with you by visiting kyokradio.org and pressing the Listen Live option. Tune in live every Thursday at 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific on kyokradio.org, the CWA Strong app, or your preferred podcast player. Search for CWA Hour of Power on your favorite podcast player. Like and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at CWA National Human Rights. To stay connected, share your thoughts, and join the conversation. Up next, we have the Marshall Minute with David Marshall. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Errol, and good morning, family, and welcome to the Marshall Minute. Last week's minute, we talked about spring cleaning and physically decluttering your home and workspace. But as union activists, we take on many roles in our locals and do many things to help our community and members that depend on us. So it makes sense for us to clear out space to make room for the day-to-day problem solving that we all do. So today, I want to talk about decluttering your mental space. A mental declutter is perfect, no matter what season you're in. So let's see if you're ready to clear your mind for a mental declutter. First thing we all need to do is ask ourselves, how am I sleeping? How do I feel? What do I feel right now? Am I more reactive than usual? Am I responding to stress in a healthy way? Is stress affecting my health, work, and/or relationships? So, here are some recommendations you can make to create a little space to reset and clear your mind. First thing, streamline your wardrobe if you want a mental declutter. And I'm sure some of the co-hosts on this show may disagree, but dressing with less relieves unnecessary stress and reduces emotional or seasonal shopping. A clean closet. I know I'm gonna catch it for this one. But a clean closet and a smaller wardrobe relieves your mind of stress and overwhelm and the decision fatigue in picking out what you're gonna wear. Does anybody want to respond to that real quick? Because I don't want to
Yes, because this war on clothes,
Yes, I want to say boo.
is crazy.
Okay, well, I'm just trying to help.
I'm gonna be stressed.
All right. Well, number 2, get off your phone, because sometimes it feels like it all comes down to this. A mental declutter requires space. And if you fill all that space with scrolling and breaking news and notifications, your mind can never take a break and reset. Next, solve a little problem before the big one. If you're struggling to solve a big problem or ongoing issue that creates stress and clutter, instead clear your mind by solving a small problem. It reminds you that you can make a change, and it gives you a sense of control and satisfaction. Remember that less news equals better mental health. Now, I'm not saying quit the news completely, but scale it back. Try doing no news in the morning or evenings, or only look at the news once or twice midday. That should be enough. As union activists, we need to be informed, but we don't need to be overwhelmed. Breaking news is broken, and it's breaking us. Next, add a hobby or activity that includes being around other people. Now, some people enjoy being alone, but human connection matters. Low stakes relationships have a high impact. Going to health clubs, community classes, or volunteering all can support your mental well-being. But then next, you want to put in some sleep strategies. A mental declutter must include better sleep. So, try to go to bed at a consistent time. I like to keep my space cool and dark. I try to aim for about 7 to 8 hours. But if you wake up trying to solve the world's problems, don't do that. They won't be solved on your pillow. So prioritize your rest. Next, you need to support your mental declutter with therapy. There are so many forms of therapy and support that's available. Never hesitate to seek help, because if your arm was broken, you'd go to the doctor. Mental health is no different. And lastly, sometimes all you need is a walk. But instead of multitasking on your walk, just walk. Put the phone down. Even 10 minutes of a quiet reset to reset your mind. Listen to the world around you and to the voice within you. All these suggestions can lead to a more creative flow, more patience, and better overall health. And that makes us better stewards in the union movement, freeing up space to take on the challenges we face every day. So until next week, this has been the Marshall Minute, where living well is the greatest act of love. But you know what? Hold up, Errol. Hold up, Errol. Actually, before we move on, let's open this back up, because if we're being honest, we spend so much time fighting for others in this movement, but not enough time talking about what we're carrying mentally and why we're doing it. So I'm curious right now, how many of us are pushing through a mental clutter right now and just calling it being busy? And I'll go first. I'll start with mine. Mine's definitely the phone. I tell myself I'm checking one thing, the next thing. I know I've gotten in, started scrolling and seeing bad news and other people's problems before the day even starts, and that's clutter. But I want to go ahead and open this up, Errol. You come in and let me know what you think. What's been taking up space in your mind lately? What do you need to clear out?
Well, let me go on and stretch back on this couch and let me just give it to you all. I think what I'm most stressed about is, and you guys already know, is really getting back into the workforce again, because I'm dealing with the AI issue, and it's either dealing with you're overqualified, you're underqualified, or they want to pay a measly $15 an hour. That's what I'm cluttered with.
Okay, all right. Well, Reggie, you've seen a lot in this movement. Do you think mental clutter is worse now than it used to be, or are we just finally talking about it?
I think it's pretty intense right now. I mean, I don't I would say it is. Yes, it is, just because so many things that, as I mentioned before, so many things are being thrown at us as activists that we just really sometimes don't know which one to tackle in any given day. And if you go to bed at night and you're planning to tackle one thing, you look at the news and there's a whole nother thing that needs to be dealt with. And they're all very important things. So the clutter is there. Yes, it's there. And I think it's I'll use the word intense. It's pretty intense right now.
I would agree with you 100%. I guess I'll go next. I know I'm always about solutions, and anybody knows me knows that. And one thing I think people can start doing to mentally declutter, especially folks that do the work we do, is take time to reset. Just like your phone needs to be plugged in and charged overnight, you need to do the same thing. For you to perform at your best, you need to make sure you recharge.
And David, I'm gonna jump back in, David, because you said something about the phone and the difference now versus 20, I'll say 25 years ago, is that phone. It's technology that has changed that. So the issues may have been there, maybe not so much all at once, but we're able to recognize the issues now because the phone is constantly dinging with the news alerts and people constantly in communications about certain things. We lay down with that technology at night. We wake up when we can't sleep, which is a bad habit. You're looking at it. So it feels that it's constant. But part of that, to your point, it's our fault because we won't put it away. We don't stop it. We don't ever turn it off.
And I just want to jump in right here because of a few of the things that you said, but I'm gonna take us back a little further to the beginning of the show when we talked about our face-to-face meeting. And at our face-to-face meeting, we are in the process of developing a worker wellness workshop, which touches on a lot of these points for workers and activists, especially in this AI world that we live in. Like Errol mentioned, there's so many things that we have to deal with, like you said, social media, the regular media, going to work every day. And then we have this, weird entity, Big Brother thing that's constantly like it's constantly surveilling us. The algorithms are built on sometimes negative things or what you click on, and like you said, we can't get away from that. And one of the things that we discussed or we're going to discuss in that workshop is building the boundary to turn it off, to refill yourself after you've given so much of yourself in so many different ways. Because a lot of times we don't realize that even just being a parent or just being part of your family is overexerting yourself. And if you're giving everything or every part of yourself to everyone else or everything else, you don't have anything left. And so, like you said, sometimes, being well is just taking a walk for yourself. Sometimes being well is sleeping in on the Saturday and not getting up to go to brunch, with your friends because they expect you to be there because you actually just need to rest and take time for yourself. So I'm really glad that we're having this conversation today. I'm really glad that as CWA, we're developing something that can kind of help us all with this. And I just want to say, I just want to commend you, David, for pointing that out because this is a really, really important topic. And a lot of people have a hard time looking at themselves and realizing or taking accountability that we are the reason why we are unwell and that we could do more for ourselves if we just took the time to do the inner work and look at what our actual needs are for ourselves and not think that we're being selfish, but we're just trying to be a whole person.
And I think that's one of the things that I like about this hour of power is that we highlight the things that are going to help anybody that listens, anybody that's in earshot of this program. This can help anybody. So I appreciate the comments. Sticking with you, Mikeya, from your generation's perspective, do you think social media is the biggest source of mental clutter right now, or is it something deeper?
1000%. For me, I get everything from social media. Like, I don't watch typically the regular news. Like, I get my news from social media. I get, like, you know what I mean? Like, whatever's trending or whatever comes from social media. If there's some type of, something, trending online, whether it's good or bad, you get it from social media and you fall into these different, like, pitfalls of social media because you kind of get certain things from certain places. So Twitter or X or whatever it's called now. You have Facebook, you have TikTok, you have Instagram, you have Threads, you have all of these different media outlets with all of these different kind of people. Like, I feel like Facebook are geared more to people in your generation. And then, so there's, and then there's Threads, and then Threads I feel like is geared more towards people like me because it's like this big, it's like being in a cafeteria all day. And so there's certain things that you get from certain places and you really can't turn it off. Like that's where you get your lingo from. Like it's so influential and it's like you cannot escape it. And even my clothes, right? Like even when you say about shopping, I'll think about a pair of shoes or see a pair of shoes one day and then now I have to go to the mall or I have to go online and start shopping because now I just keep getting ads incessantly about this pretty pair of hair cowhide mules that I just have to have. And if I don't get them from Steve Madden, I'm gonna have to get them from Aldo. If I don't get them from Aldo, I'm gonna have to get them from Nordstrom. If I don't get them from Nordstrom, they come up on Neiman Marcus, and it's like you're under attack because of social
Hit
media.
that
And I have
mute
to
button,
buy the
Reginald,
shoes, and
on
that's
her,
why I can't
please.
declutter.
Do you got some
So,
on your
so,
mind?
so social media is just like that rabbit hole you just took us down.
Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly how it works.
I wish this was a TV show. You don't get to see the expressions I see. Timmia, let me bring you in. How do you personally know when it's time to step back and reset mentally? Like, what are your signs?
For me, when I have jumbled thoughts and I start making mistakes, that's when I know it's time for me to step back. Unfortunately, some of us have those symptoms, but we're not always able to take off. And that's something that I'm working on.
Okay. And
That's really profound there to actually, to own that and say that because we all have those jumbled thoughts and we think we're supposed to just work through them. And if we don't take a step back and declutter, since that's the theme of the day, we just get more jumbled, more tangled up, and we can't help anybody else because it's just all tangled up.
That's right.
makes sense. Well, this next one's for all of us because this matters. How do we protect our peace while still doing the work? And anybody feel free to jump in on this.
What was that again, David? I'm sorry.
How do we protect our peace while still doing the work?
Oh, we got to set that boundary. That's what we learned at the face-to-face. Set that boundary.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Errol. I'm glad you were listening.
Yes, I was listening.
Well, because the thing is, if we don't make that space mentally, we'll burn out. And then your work will suffer due to that burnout. So I want to do a quick round, one or two, one word. habit, one word or one habit that's something you're going to do this week to clear your mental space.
Okay, I'll go first, and it's gonna be more than one word because I don't listen.
Rule is one word.
And so I like to, I personally, my favorite thing is to get outside. I can't put that on one word, but to get outside and actually feel the sun on my face and to just listen. Like yesterday, I sat outside and I took a walk and I just listened to the birds chirping. Like that's all I did. And I just took the walk. I didn't have on my earphones. I didn't play any music. I didn't have my phone. And I just experienced what it felt like to just be in a world where everything was just quiet and still. And I didn't owe anybody anything. I didn't have to do anything other than exist. So that was my one thing, more than one word.
All right.
And I'm gonna piggyback off of Mikeya. That's mine. Walking right now is my thing. It's just walking, which is self-care in more than one way, but it more than physically, it just clears the mind.
Yeah, and I think mine is going to be close this laptop. That's what mine is going to be.
And I'll end it with I'm just going to rest. All right. So that's real. That's what's needed because at the end of the day, a healthy union movement requires healthy union people. And so now I will turn it back to you, Errol.
Thank you so much, David. And listen, I'm going to tell you guys, it is so wonderful to hear the talk back on my telephone because my text messages are going off today about this subject. So I want to give a shout out to Michelle, to Shay, to Ro out of Miami for all of them tuning in today and talking back to me on the cell phone because I've been laughing at them and they're really soaking this up. You're listening to KYOK 1140 AM and the all new 106.5 FM. If you're on the go, you can take us with you by visiting kyokradio.org and pressing the listen live option. Tune in live every Thursday at 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific on kyokradio.org, the CWA Strong app, or your preferred podcast player. All right, up next, we're going to be talking about something that has really been in the news, and that is our friends over at TSA. So we're going to be talking about security, sacrifice, and solidarity. This conversation hits close to home because we just wrapped up again the face-to-face meeting of our CWA National Human Rights Committee in Atlanta, and many of our members had to navigate airports, long lines, and TSA checkpoints to get there. So I want to start with the team. Did anyone have issues traveling into Atlanta, long lines, delays, or any notable experiences going through TSA?
I
Well,
did
I
not
drove
have,
in. Oh, go ahead.
no, back to you, sister.
I said, oh, you're being polite today. Wow, wellness is working. I drove in. So the only thing I had to deal with was that treacherous Atlanta traffic. So no, I didn't. I didn't get the TSA lines. I just got the normal traffic.
Okay.
Yeah, I came from the, of course, Dallas airport, and I had no wait there. I mean, not even a hesitation. And coming out of Atlanta was smooth
Now,
sailing in the pre-check global access line or whatever you call it.
now I
Okay.
do know a lot of our committee members did. I know some of them were in line for like 4 hours coming from New York and yeah, that northeast area. I know some of them had a lot of trouble there. Some of our members were at the airport for like 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, and even President Cummings last week, he was leaving out of Houston, flying to DC, and he got caught up in the long lines. And these experiences are important because they reflect what millions of travelers are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. But to understand what's happening now, we have to understand where TSA came from. The TSA was created in response to September 11th attacks in 2001, one of the most defining national security events in modern U.S. history. In response, Congress passed the Aviation and Transportation Security Act, which established TSA as a federal agency under the Department of Transportation and later moved under the Department of Homeland Security. So the original intent was clear. Here it is. Standardized airport security nationwide, replace inconsistent private security systems, and then to create a federally accountable workforce responsible for aviation safety. And before TSA, airport security was largely privatized and inconsistent. And so TSA was created because the system was not sufficient to protect the public. Now, here's something most travelers don't realize. Every time you buy a plane ticket, you're contributing directly to the TS funding through the September 11th security fee. And that's about $5.60 each way, roughly $11 round trip. And that means the public is already investing in airport security every time they fly. Billions of dollars are collected annually, and it's estimated over 4 billion in some years to support aviation security operations. However, not all of that funding is directly reinvested into TSA operations. The portions of it are directed into the border federal budget. So while travelers are paying into the system, the workforce responsible for running it is still facing challenges. So let's look at the workforce itself. TSA employs about 61,000, did I stutter? 61,000 transportation security officers nationwide. These officers screen more than 2 million passengers every single day. And that's a massive operational responsibility. But there are ongoing challenges. Staffing shortages have been reported across multiple airports. Attrition remains a concern with thousands of officers leaving annually. Turnover is driven by factors such as pay competitiveness, job stress and burnout, scheduling demands, working conditions, and in some locations, staffing levels have not kept pace with increasing passenger volumes, contributing to long waiting times and operational strain. So while demand is high, the workforce is stretched thin. So we have to address what's happening now. The TSA workers have experienced multiple pay disruptions within a short period of time. And I don't know about you guys, but I would hate for my pay to be disrupted so many times. What do you guys think about that?
Listen, when you were talking about it, I was already upset, especially because coming from working in the airline industry, I know specifically that you pay that $11 and change each way, specifically for this. And so even the fact that there is a particular amount that we all pay when we do this particular travel that is supposed to support them, that is then manipulated and maliciously withheld just to affect or try to evoke change in a negative way, it just really bothers me. And then again, like you said, the fact that they haven't been paid consistently twice within the last 6 months is egregious. And I feel like that's an attack on workers, and people need to understand that that's an attack on somebody's human rights. And it's just plain old wrong. Making somebody work for free so that you can get your way is disgusting.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that came out just the other day was that some workers recently began receiving paychecks, but it was not the full paycheck. Come on, David. Look like you got something
Hey,
to say.
I was gonna say, to me, we got to peep the game because uh, this always comes up. How do we fund the TSA? How do we fund federal programs? And they always got to try to figure out how to find the money and who's going to pay for it. But in the meantime, we're spending $1 billion a day on dropping bombs in a war. So far, $12 billion could have funded our TSA a long time ago. So we know how to find the money when it's time to find the money. We just got to start finding it when it affects the people, and we got to take care of the people. So that's on us. That's why we got.
But I have a question, David, even to what you're saying, right? And I don't know if you all know the answer to this, but I'm very curious. If, right, even with that, right, if they're saying find the money, if we have a specific fee that you pay on an airline ticket of $11, I think it's $11.20. So if we pay $11.20 each way as a passenger, specifically to go towards this particular TSA and the security, why do they need to find the money when that is what that money is for?
Oh yeah, I agree 100%.
No, I was asking. I didn't say.
It should be criminal to have somebody. I mean, the
Mhm.
last time you worked and didn't get paid, we had a civil war behind it.
Right, and one of the things about that particular fee is that the funding is not all directly reinvested into TSA operations. Some of it goes back or is redirected into the border federal budget.
While I can appreciate that education, Errol, and to understand the monies and how we pay it for each ticket, because I didn't know that. I did not come from an airline industry, but this I do know that this is not the first time we've been here, and it seems like we're here too often. And it all
Right.
goes back to the process of this budget approval and government shutdowns, which I now there are some essential services that should not be impacted because we still need those services. So without getting into the political legislative what bill needs to be passed and all that, it's too late in the evening that we should still be here with TSA and the money is in a bucket somewhere. Aren't we
All
getting
right.
ready
Now
to print some new money with some new signatures and all that on it? We can
right.
pay these people. We
Now
should
you
be
could
beyond this right now.
you
But
about to open Pandora's box because we should be past a whole lot of things in life. We shouldn't have to be going back down the road to have a bill passed for folks to vote either.
well,
Oh
that
God,
too. Yeah, that too. But I mean, my thing is, if I shut down and don't pay my taxes, I'm gonna be in jail. But they can shut down
Right,
and nothing happens.
Hello.
right. And
That's
and and one of the other things I don't know. Go ahead, Mikeya.
no go. No, I would just give him my little fingers to David because that's what he said. If you don't pay them taxes, you're going straight to jail immediately. Do not pass go. Do not collect any dollars. Go straight to jail. And then when you get out, you got to pay them taxes still.
Right, right. Now I want to ask this question because I just found this out, and I want to see if I was the only one uneducated in this particular area. Did you all know that TSA wasn't the only group impacted by not being paid, the government being shut down?
yes, yes, I was aware of that. Coast Guard being one of them.
Okay, see, I didn't know the Coast Guard was missing their pay also, and then I guess that would also hit civilian workers as well. So I was totally caught off guard with that. I just figured it was just the TSA agents.
Well,
No,
No,
it's
there
but
are.
I think the TSA agents, I think, now I'm not the expert on this, but I think it has hit the news more because of right now we're in such a delicate time right now with what's going on with the I don't know what we're calling it. I don't think it's a war, but the conflict right now that's going on in the world. I mean, it's under scrutiny because we need safety in our airports after 9/11 and how this whole thing was formed. I would think that we need it now more than we ever have, or it's just as
Right.
much as when it was actually formed. So I think it hit the news that way. And of course, we're using. I mean, this is political bait right now. I mean, it's. I think they're being used that way as well. Unfortunately.
I agree. So now we have to ask an important question. Listen up to me now. Is this instability simply mismanagement, or is it creating conditions that could be used to justify privatization?
I agree. It's definitely a ploy, a tool, a plot, something from that document that everybody said didn't exist, but somehow we reaping the benefits of that particular document that came out in about projects in 2025. And so I definitely think it's a ploy to do certain things. And what's I think the most egregious part, though, is that we don't take human life seriously enough in this world, right? Like, we are impacting the livelihoods of these people just to get our points across or just to have our way. And I just think that living in a society where we are all pawns in this game. Um, it's dehumanizing, it's inhumane, and it's sad.
Well, we got to get it back to the way it used to be. Used to, you should be able to depend on your government to be there, unlike a private entity that can, make bad investments and then be out of business the next day. The government's not supposed to go out of business. We all contribute to it, so it should be funded. It should be services that are rendered for the taxes that they collect on us all. So we just have to demand better. And if it means cleaning out Washington and sending more union members to office, then that's what we're going to have to do. Because it seems like the regular guy has that can manage in these economic times would do a better job with a budget, I think, than these highly educated folks that got us in this position right now.
You saying highly educated? Never mind.
Right.
All right, so now we have to ask this important question. I know we're coming down to that. Maybe we might need to extend this one just for next week, or we can do it after we get off the air. But uh, we got to really think about this. We got to bring it back to the workers. Let's bring it back to the workers. And every day, the TSA officers are standing for long hours, working in high stress environments, managing the responsibility of keeping millions of travelers safe, interacting with the public under pressure, and yet they are often met with frustration rather than appreciation. And I want to just say that these are our union brothers and sisters, and for the travelers listening, remember, you're already paying for this system every time you fly. So instead of frustration, why don't you just extend patience, respect, and appreciation? And just a little simple thank you goes a long way to reduce the stress. And every time I fly, I try to make sure I tell the TSA agent, thank you for all that you do, especially when they were not receiving pay. And so, from airports to coastlines, the people protecting this country deserve stability, fair treatment, and respect. TSA workers and the Coast Guard members are part of the backbone of national security. And when frontline workers are uncertain about pay, staffing, and resources, it affects the entire system. So, to our TSA workers that are listening, we see you, we appreciate you, and we understand, and we stand in solidarity with you. As we come down to the final minutes of the show, I just want to remind you that the Communication Workers of America invites you to the 2026 National Human Rights Conference happening August 16th through 19th in Atlanta. Join our union leaders and activists from across the country as we come together to build power, advance justice, and fight for workers' rights. This year's conference will be held at the beautiful Western Peachtree Plaza, located in the heart of downtown Atlanta. To register, visit cwahumanrights.com. Don't miss this opportunity to connect and learn for a stronger, more just future. We'll see you in Atlanta. An hour is not long enough to be with you, and a week is too long to be away from you. You've been tuned into the CWA Human Rights Hour Power broadcast. I hope something you heard today has inspired you to take action toward creating positive change in the world. Every person has the power to make a difference, no matter how small. And by working together, we can create a world where human rights are respected and valued. So I encourage each of you in the listening audience to reflect on your role in promoting human rights to affect change in your communities and beyond. Know that you are not alone in your quest for a more just and equitable world. When faced with injustice, it can be easy to lose hope and give up. But remember, justice may be slow like the truth, but when it finally comes, it will stand. Until next Thursday, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, right here on KYOK 1140 a.m. and the all-new 106.5 FM KYOK radio.org. See you next week.